Hi, I'm John Liebman, founder and first baseman of ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Today, I'm going to talk to you about an often overlooked component of proper bass technique, and that is playing it clean. We want to make sure that the only note we hear is the note we want to hear. And this is done with a combination of left hand and right hand muting techniques. This is going to make your bass playing sound so much better, so much more polished, so much more professional. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Now, when you play the bass, most of the time, almost all the time, you're going to be playing only one note at a time. Of course, there's all kinds of double stops you can play and some really cool chording things, but almost all the time you're going to be playing one note at a time. And we want to make sure that's the only note we hear. And we want it nice and clean and clear and round and full. I go into this in a lot more detail in my lessons and courses at ForBassPlayersOnly.com. But for right now, I'm just going to give you a general overview of how this works with the left hand and right hand muting techniques, because it is so important, and like I said, it is too often overlooked. So let's take a look. When you're playing on the E string, for example, you see my left forefinger is pressing down on the fifth fret of the E string, and my forefinger, same finger, is also ever so slightly touching the other three strings, but not pushing down on it. And that's going to be the case generally. The lower the string you're playing on, the more the muting will be taken care of by the left hand, the fretting hand. So the E we can hear, and that's the one we want to hear, the E string, the A note on the E string, and we're muting the other three strings. When we move up to the A string, okay, the left forefinger is still doing its thing. It's resting on top of the D and the G strings, very lightly, just barely touching it. Again, just enough to choke it off. The A string we're playing, that's the string we want to hear. And the E string, which also has to be muted, is taken care of actually in two ways. First of all, the right thumb is kind of sitting on top of the E string, very lightly, just gently touching it, just enough to choke it off. And also notice what happens when you play the A string. Look what happens to your finger, if you can see. You can't help but rest it against the E string after you pluck the A string. There's nowhere else for it to go. So the D and the G are taken care of with the left forefinger. The E is taken care of with the thumb and with your finger after it hits against the A string. And the A string is the one we want to hear, so that is the only one we hear. Now here's where it gets just a little bit tricky. It's going to take some finesse. It's going to take some movement of your right hand that you may not have thought about before. It might feel a little awkward at first, but as you do it, it will eventually become second nature. I don't even think about it. I'm talking about moving your right thumb from on top of the E string to resting between the E and the A strings. That way you choke them both off. Because if you're playing on the D string or the G string, there's no room for the left hand to mute these other strings, so that's got to be taken care of with the right hand. And that is why we need to move our thumb. Sometimes we're moving it up and down as we change strings. If we're playing on the upper strings, the lower strings, our right hand has to accommodate that, and there is very often a place where it needs to be, which is between the E and the A strings. So that takes care of those two strings. The D string is the one we want to hear, so we're plucking that. And the left forefinger still doing its thing, resting against the G string, just not even resting, very, very lightly touching it. And then when we play on the G string, Okay, the right thumb stays where it was. That doesn't move. That's between the E and the A strings, so those are covered. And then, like we talked about a minute ago, when you pluck on the G string, your finger has nowhere to go except to rest against the D string. So that takes care of the other three strings. The thumb for the E and the A, and the plucking finger for the D string. And then that frees up the G string to sing out nice and pure. I wrote a little exercise specifically to demonstrate these muting techniques, left hand and right hand muting techniques. I'm going to demonstrate that for you right now. Watch my fingers, watch my thumb, pay attention, perhaps in ways that you might not have thought of before. I'm going to play this right now, then I'll come back and we'll wrap it up. Did you see how I was using those muting techniques in that example I just played? When I was playing on the lower strings, my left forefinger, and sometimes my other fingers too, were ever so slightly touching the upper strings, choking them off, preventing them from vibrating. And when I was playing on the upper strings, my right thumb moved right down here in between the E and the A strings, choking them off. More importantly, did you notice how the only note you heard was the note you were supposed to hear? That's what I want for you. I want you to pay attention and start incorporating these muting techniques into your practice sessions. Start by downloading the PDF of the example I just played. There's a link right underneath this video. Click the link, download the PDF, it's free, and start incorporating these muting techniques into your practice sessions now. You can have some fun with it too. Maybe you want to play a little Ray Charles, you know. Did you notice when I went up to the fourth of the upper strings, my right thumb moved down right here in between the E and the A string? Second nature, like I said, that will happen for you as well. This is going to make you a much, much better bass player, guaranteed. Do those muting techniques. Download the PDF, start incorporating them into your practice sessions right now. That's all I've got. Don't forget to subscribe to the For Bass Players Only YouTube channel, and I will see you next time. I'm John Liebman. Let's play bass.